Welcome back. The NRO may now have to go through Parliament for approval before becoming a permanent fixture, but the incumbent government has plans to introduce another controversial ordinance. The Corporate Rehabilitation Ordinance, which will bypass Parliament and is set to be promulgated this month. It's been drafted to help ailing industries recover and provide some relief to businesses drowning under the burden of debt. But it's meeting with the wrath of the banks that loans the money in the first place. The main purpose of the ordinance is that it will write off bank loans given to companies or businesses that are struggling to pay them back in order to prevent the business from collapsing. A technical advisory committee appointed by the federal government will be set up to review cases qualifying for a debt waiver. The courts will have complete authority to write off debt without consulting creditors. The ordinance, once passed, will also allow companies to secure an immediate stay of proceedings against it by filing a petition in court seeking a restructure of its liabilities, even if that amount was ordered to be paid by a previous court judgment. OK, well, first of all, let's find out exactly how the banking sector feels about this. I'm joined on the line by Aftab Manzoor, Chairman of Pakistan Banking Association. Good evening to you. Thank you for speaking to us. Not great hearing that money you're owed, and I think we're talking billions here, billions of rupees, may not come your way.
Well, if you're talking about the Corporate Rehabilitation Act?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, actually, we have had a number of discussions with the SECP who are coming out with the law, with the proposed law. And we have had a number of discussions with our regulator, with the State Bank of Pakistan. And we have suggested some checks and balances whereby, which we feel are required to ensure that the banking sector is not negatively impacted. So we are still talking to them, and we have actually recommended some of these points in writing to them.
Is the SECP receptive to those points?
Actually, we are going to have another meeting next week, and we'll see what all, we have actually had a number of drafts which were exchanged, and some of the issues which we had highlighted, they have been incorporated, but we are looking at the legal ramifications because we fear that, this may result in the NPLs really shooting up. And this is something which are not required at the moment, not wanted at the moment. Also, I think what is likely will happen as a result of this is that the credit underwriting standards become more, stringent, and the private sector credit may get stifled.
How potentially damaging could this be for Pakistan's banking sector, which hasn't had an easy time of it as it is?
Well, it's difficult for me to really comment on that how much or, what extent, till, we really figure out what the conditions are. But we feel that as of now, are a few issues which really need to be addressed. If they are not, then we are looking at a major surge in non-performing loans.
And do you think it will impact on the bank's ability or willingness to loan money in the future as well, then?
Yes, of course, definitely. That's one of our major concerns.
And Aftab Manzoor, if you had the choice of having this ordinance or not having this ordinance, what would you say?
I think, really we are supporting the ordinance, but we just want to ensure that the required checks and balances and the issues which we feel are not there, the checks and balances should be there, so that there is a semblance of balance, and it's not, very much, either debtor or credit friendly. It has to be balanced law.
Aftab Manzoor, thanks very much indeed for on the line tonight. Well, let's go back to our studio in Lahore and Salman Raja, who joins me once again, who's been looking into the CRO. I think you're on a one-man battle against ordinances, Salman Raja. But looking at this one, I think speaking to people from the banking sector today, they were saying that they're not against having an easy, efficient, clean system of sorting out liabilities and bad debt. The issue is if you have to go through the courts anyway, it's going to take a lot of time. And then to write off debt when billions of rupees have already been wiped off by President Musharraf and Prime Minister Gilani in his 1 year, 5 months in power. Why more?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not some kind of an opponent of this law per se. I mean, all I'm saying is that there should have been a process whereby a more rigorous examination of the various options, the various choices available for framing such a law had been examined more openly. There should have been a wider debate with the legal profession, with the courts, with the banking profession. Now, what seems to have happened here is that the US Chapter 11 has been taken as a model and has been largely copied into this proposed ordinance or act. And really, a number of other models available around the world have not been studied. I'm quite confident in saying that. For instance, there is this provision in the proposed law that there, upon filing an application for relief, a debtor will be entitled to an automatic moratorium, an automatic stay of all present and future proceedings by creditors. Now, that is not something unheard of. There are a number of laws around the world in various countries that provide for that. But there are other safeguards that these laws also provide. For instance, in Canada, when you apply for some kind of relief, a monitor is immediately appointed. Now, the monitor looks after the cash flow, carries out an audit of the company's functioning, does not necessarily, in fact, does not ever displace the management. Now, there is an issue in Pakistan that if you make a law whereby the existing management is thrown out and some kind of a receiver or trustee is appointed, the company will go to the dogs. It will not be able to function. So you need somebody who can run the company, and that very often is the existing management. But that does not mean that you leave the existing management without any modicum of supervision, as is being proposed in the present law. This follows essentially the US model. But in doing that, it neglects a number of things. Now, if you look at the structure of medium or large-sized US companies, you see that the shareholders are a distinct group, the directors are again a distinct group of people, and the management is a third group of people in a company. So there are internal restraints, there are internal checks and balances. If a company goes into Chapter 11, very often its management is kicked out by the board, or the board itself is kicked out by the shareholders. So you don't use Chapter 11 necessarily as a strategic weapon. It is a very painful decision that you take after a great deal of circumspection. My worry is that in Pakistan...
What kind of weapon do you think
if I may just complete this, in a country... Sorry, I didn't get that.
I was saying, what kind of weapon do you think the CRO is going to be used as?
See, what happens is, if you, as the controlling family of shareholders, know that you are not going to be kicked out of the company, you will remain the dominant shareholder, you will remain the dominant presence in the board of directors, you will retain the management in your hands, then there is no internal restriction or internal constraint on your seeking relief under the new law. Now, the relief that you seek under the new law can extend not only to bank loans, it extends to trade credit, it extends to your taxes that can be written off, it extends to your utility bills, electricity, gas, and so on. So there is, my fear is that if you leave a management in place with no supervision whatsoever, it will be tempted very often to use this law strategically to seek write-offs. And at the end of the day, if it fails, if the plan that it presents is not approved by the court or by the technical committee, the downside is not very painful. It can withdraw from the petition. There is this provision in the law that a winding up order will be passed, but winding up orders are always reversible. It can always then inject some equity, say it's found an investor, the company is no longer in distress, and the winding up order will stand revoked. So the downside of taking a chance under this law strategically by an intending defaulter is not really painful enough. There are various other things that I could come up with which are technical in nature, but which are extremely important. This law fundamentally alters the balance between the creditors in the country, all sorts of creditors, and borrowers or defaulters.
Salman Raja, I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. No doubt this debate will carry on as this ordinance gets closer and closer to being promulgated. Thanks very much indeed for joining us live from Lahore. You're watching NewsEye. We're going to take a very quick break here. After that, on the 64th anniversary of Hiroshima, NewsEye takes a look at whether we can really face a nuclear-free world. Stay tuned to the programme.